Hey Fresh Fam, it's Rose. We are so glad you joined us this morning. You are in for a treat. We have pre-service, which will start right now as we gear up for our main service. So right now, I'm joined by Dr. Tonya Chestnut. You are not only the co-pastor of Fresh Anointing House of Worship Selma, but you are also running for District 5 seat on the Alabama State Board of Education. We've got the elections coming up in November, but you've had a long history in education. Tell me about that.
Yes, I have. I started in education when I was 21 years old and actually stayed in K-12 education until I was 47. I retired at 47, but during that time, I had the pleasure of serving as a classroom teacher, assistant principal, central office administrator. Then I went to the State Department to serve as a principal coach, where I coached principals across the state. Did that until retirement. Retired at 47 for about 30 plus days and found myself at Concordia College, Alabama, and remained there for 9 years. The original intention was to be there 1 year, but I fell in love with what I was doing, serving as an intern, supervisor, associate professor, and then ending as dean of teacher education. So I've had just an awesome journey in education. It's been 36 years, and I've loved every minute of it.
Wow, that's definitely an accomplishment. Tell me from your perspective, where you've seen education kind of, really go full circle, because it's definitely changing. But talk a little bit about how it has changed throughout the years.
Well, it really has. I can remember, and those that have been in education for a while, I remember we had the mimeograph machines where we would leave with purple hands and watch the transition of just being excited about having a fax machine and then going into the email and then just watching it progress, where now everything's digital. You've got tablets and computers. And so just to see it evolve has been exciting. It's been a journey, but I think that every progression has been for the betterment of our students. And so education has changed, but in some ways, personally for me, just the passion for children and the love for children has remained the same. And so I believe that the way we've known education, we will have a new normal, with all things considered and what's going on now. I don't think we'll ever see it the way it has been in the past.
From your perspective, with everything that's gone on with coronavirus, and a lot of kids ended up not finishing out a traditional school year. Seniors had to have a different type of means to graduation. And even now, we're about to start a new school year, and it looks a lot different in Alabama and across the nation, because we have a lot of people from around the world watching even now. But I guess from your perspective, what advice would you give to parents out there? Because this is a lot.
Well, and I can understand, having children myself, and then I have my own grandchildren that I'm having to assist my kids with because of the pandemic. I would say to any parent to, of course, put the best interests of your child first. Right now, they're really not sure completely how this disease is spreading. And as much as I value education and as much as I know the importance of children, maintaining their level of learning face to face, I'm real concerned about those kids physically. I know that it's impacting their lives socially, and that's a big thing, because that's so important in the development of children. But at this time, I would definitely look at the situation from a life or death situation, just
prior to coming here, I saw where some other states have started, and within the first week, they're having to shut down because of COVID. You really can't determine who has, it's like we're fighting an enemy we can't see, and so many people are asymptomatic, so they don't know that they have it. And when we know anything, it's just an issue that I'm not even sure educators are equipped to handle.
If you are just joining us, we want to welcome you into our pre-service. I'm Rose, and I'm joined by Dr. Tonya Chestnut, and we are doing a special pre-service regarding education this morning. Soon we will begin service. We have worship and an on-time word from Pastor Kyle. So if you are watching on Facebook or YouTube, please go ahead and share this link with your family and friends. Go ahead and show us those likes and those hearts, and let us know where you are watching from right now in those comments. Going right back into just the shift that we've had with students. Some are going virtual this semester, and just having to really navigate, like you mentioned earlier, a new normal. From your expertise, what are some things that parents can do to kind of help in this transition?
Well, one of the things I know that's going to be critical is that you stay in touch with your child's teacher, that there's an open line of communication, and take advantage of it. They will be communicating virtually, but then also being a part of what's taking place each day. Children are children, and they still will need guidance even in the home. I'm excited to hear that a lot of the school districts are providing one-to-one devices, because my initial thought is, what happens to the child that's in a home that only has one computer, but there are 2 or 3 kids? And so fortunately, the students will have the opportunity to have their own devices. And but I say to a parent, stay in touch with the child's teacher, but also if your child needs special accommodations, reach out to the school to make sure that they are still afforded those accommodations. Those that have 504 services or special needs, and even with the kids that are gifted, they are considered under that category. But the main thing is to stay connected to the school, as well as be even more engaged with what's happening with your child.
Would you recommend that parents have a nightly routine, or just a routine in general? And what kind of tips would you provide when it comes to building a nice routine and following through with that routine?
Well, I agree with you. Even in addition to the nightly routine, just having a daily schedule, really, and that should be provided from the school. The teacher will probably share that during this time there will be face-to-face. These things will be taking place, but let the kids be a part of developing the schedule. Post it so that they can see that from this time to this time we're doing this. But then in the evenings, there's a time of reflection to find out from the kids, how are you doing? And even be intentional, since you have the devices, setting up through Zoom or some other technology platform where they can communicate with their friends. So we're not looking at just their academic needs, but we're also paying attention to the social and emotional well-being of the children.
Excellent, excellent. And also, from your point of view, how does this change perhaps your goals and your vision as it relates to you running for District 5 or on the Alabama Board of Education?
Well, it really has, because a lot of District 5 is in the Black Belt, in a lot of remote and rural areas, and a lot of those areas do not have internet accessibility. And so school districts are having to find ways to ensure that the students have the access to internet services. And so it's something that probably should have been done in the past. So something good has come out of it, because it has forced the various companies and school districts, and I don't think it's just the total responsibility of the school districts to provide it, but we're grateful that they're getting funding. But it's really an infrastructure issue. And so as a result of this, areas that may not have ever gotten internet accessibility will now have that, even if it means the buses are going out and they have the hotspot. So it's always good to look for just good out of sometimes what's not so good. And that's one thing we can say that has been a blessing within what's going on here.
And how can, I guess, a lot of times, we don't necessarily realize how much time our children who are in school spend with their teachers, administrators, just in that community. Mm-hmm. How can parents, I guess, take a moment to be more reflective on their involvement? Mm-hmm. And how imperative or vital is a parent's involvement in their students' course of learning?
Oh, wow. That's one of the key contributors in the success of children, and I think even now we have to be more intentional. Everybody's concerned about how people are doing emotionally through this time. And I know even as adults, it's been challenging for adults to, make it through the pandemic. And so I would say to parents, while you're really, really focusing on the academics, don't take lightly how your child is feeling emotionally and socially, having to be isolated. And so as you're going through, it's okay to ask how you're doing. There's something that we used to do when my kids were young, even at the dinner table, we would play what we call high-low. And they got to share what was a high of their day and what was a low of their day, but it kept us connected. And my husband and I would share our highs and lows so that they would know. But it gives them that forum where they can be honest without consequence of, what's going on. And a lot of things will come out as a result of that. So I say to any parent, really be sensitive during this time.
What encouragement, even taking it a step further, for those parents out there that, say they're having to take a different role in their child's learning, with it being online, their kids are there asking them more questions, etc. What encouragement would you provide them? Because some may say, well, I don't have the education necessarily to answer these questions, but I do want to be a resource for my children. What advice would you give them?
If you go to most of the school districts have been very intentional in making sure that they are providing support. And I'm an educator, and there were some areas I was just not equipped to help my children, but I would say to them to reach out to the schools, and they can provide you with support. There's a lot of support that can be received through online additional tutorials, and so that open communication between the school and the home and the teacher will definitely make a difference. And school systems are being intentional in making sure that the supports that are needed to ensure success for the kids are provided.
What else are you hoping to see during this time, just as we make this transition?
Well, what I see, and even personally, is really stretching the educators as well, because now we are forced to really learn how to actively engage children through virtual learning. And so when you think about all of the experiences that can be gained through the use of internet, places that kids may not have ever been exposed to. And so I think that everybody is growing. The kids will grow, the educators will grow, school systems are growing, our community is growing, because we're having to be more cognitive of our well-being, making sure that we're health conscious. And so through it all, even though, like I said earlier, this has been not a good thing, but good has come out of it. And so I think it has a lot to do with perspective, so we're going to make lemonade out of lemons.
I love it. I love it. And there's some educators who are watching this morning who are part of Fresh Anointing, whether it's Montgomery, the Atlanta campus, or they're even just part of our online, but they can, I'm sure, be overwhelmed tremendously by all of this. You have watched and know firsthand about, being an educator in changing times. What advice would you provide them?
Well, I would say to any educator, and especially those that are part of this ministry, that God is still the same God. He is. Yes, we're dealing with issues that we've never had to deal with before, but I believe that He is going to see us through. I was talking to some educators just this week, and a lot of them expressed some fear about being exposed and just feeling overwhelmed. But I say to any educator, equip and empower yourself to be the best you. Because you're not alone in this. Even though we're social distancing, we're not isolated. And so be intentional in connecting and networking with other educators that can support you, especially in those areas where you may feel that you are not where you need to be. Iron still sharpens iron in education, and so just be encouraged. I believe that we're going to look back over this year and in years to come and say, wow, look where we are now. And I just see it as a launching pad for us to go to another level in education.
I love it. And as we get nearer towards the election, what is your outlook? And what are you hoping for overall?
Well, of course, I'm hoping to be the next state school board, District 5 board member. So I'm excited about it, and I'm just as energized about this process. In fact, it propelled me to do some things differently. We had to really change our plan of action, because when we first started, we had no idea that we were shifting from face-to-face transactions to a lot of social media. And so it's propelled us to really be open-minded and willing to change. And so even with the social distancing, one of the things that I'm committed to, and that is to stay connected, because you cannot adequately represent where you're not involved. And so we will utilize social media as a means to stay connected with all 17 of the counties in which I would represent. And so if you don't remember anything, just choose Chestnut on November 3rd.
And I know that you just mentioned it, social media playing a large part in just how we operate and do things. And I've noticed, just looking at yours, you are very much so community centered and bringing people together. I've seen some of your Facebook Lives. Share where people can connect with you and reach out to you.
Sure. You can go to Choose Chestnut on Facebook, and we're in the process of finalizing our website, but all of it will be interconnected. And so if you go to Choose Chestnut and just like our page, we would love to have your input, your feedback, your cooperation and collaboration. But if you, like I said, everything's Choose Chestnut. And so feel free to reach out to me. You can inbox me, and I'm very open. I can give you my number. It's 334-327-8648. You can even, if you want to make a financial contribution, Cash App, $ Choose Chestnut. And so we are very, very eager to hear from everybody, because it takes a village still to make sure that our children have what they need.
Talk about the necessity of having a village, because it looks so much different in 2020 than we have been accustomed to knowing. From your perspective,
Oh yes, I can remember growing up, the village included the neighborhood, but now with social media and our kids involved with all of the different social platforms, it really takes a village, even virtually. And I'll say to parents, be aware of what your children are posting. Pay attention to their Facebook friends or friends that they have on the other social media platforms. But then also remember, that we are still one another's keeper. You know, if you see a child going down a pathway that you know is not the path that's going to lead to the results they want, most time parents are the last to know. And so I know our culture is, you know, mind your own business, but we are each other's business. And I know, you know, as a parent, a grandparent, I would value and appreciate if someone saw my child going in a direction that was going to be detrimental. And so I encourage everyone, let's help one another. There may be a single parent that wants to be there for their child during the day that just can't, because they've got to choose between providing a roof over their head in education. So if you are there and you know you can support and provide assistance academically, if it's no more than calling and saying, hey, are you okay over there? What can we do? Let's tutor, let's support, let's encourage. But whatever we can do, we've got to come together in order for this to end the way we want it to.
My last question for you. Some people may be wondering, you know, these are trying times, and why did you choose that now was the right time for you to run for this position? And, you know, what's at the core of what is your why?
Well, to be honest with you, 8 months ago, I never would have dreamed I would be in this situation. Unfortunately, the young lady that held this position died suddenly. Okay. And I can remember sitting at my table and I said, oh my goodness, who's going to really see about the kids in District 5? Dr. Ella Bell has been so committed for over 20 plus years. And that was my initial thought, you know, and I tell you what, I began to just pray about it. It became like a burden to me. And I know that personally, I'm not a fan of politics. And I mean, it just wouldn't go away. It just wouldn't go away. And I am retired, and I am still just as passionate about education as I was when I first started 36 years ago. And I just sought and out and called just a couple of people that really knew me personally and knew me as an educator. And I said, hey, y'all, you know, this has just been on my heart. What do you think? You know, what do you think? And they were like, well, you would be the perfect person, you know. And you know when it's something that you're supposed to do, you just can't shake it, you know. And it's like you just have to do it. I really can't explain it, but that's how I got to this point. And you know, my commitment is to be the voice for the children, to always remember that I was one of the kids. I'm a product of District 5. My children were educated in District 5. My experience has been in District 5. And so out of the 17 counties, I've worked in 8 of them in some capacity or another. And so as I began to look, and I was like, wow, Lord, you prepared me for this. And I didn't even know that I was being prepared. Yes. So I just see it as just another opportunity to continue to be a servant and to be that voice for our children.
So people need to know to choose Chestnut.
Choose Chestnut, that's right.